Welcome to your D122W1 Spring 23 to your final project, which will be web layouts for your logo for whichever lawn care service you updated their logo for. And I did R&R, so I wanted to make sure I put something together just to see a sample. And this is my basic web page comp, and it's just a hero page, meaning it just has a logo, phone number, navigation, headline, and a call to action button with a big picture in the background. So they called this a hero page where you just kind of see that first. And if you click on this little arrow button here, you get a little preview of what it looks like. And it shows it in a MacBook. And that's kind of a cool way to preview your web page. And I'll close that up. And I also made on page 2 a mobile version on an iPhone 8 Plus. And when you hit the preview for that, it looks like that. So it shows how it looks on a phone, and you can see this is more of a vertical layout. Instead of phone number, I just put a phone icon. Instead of the navigation, I put a hamburger menu for different options there. Centered the logo, centered the headline, made a bigger button, and made it vertical. And certainly you'd be scrolling down for more information, but that's all we have to do for this particular project. And also, I wanted to show you what I did with the logo just to show you how I got to this point. And I'll go over some of the work on here, but this is where we're going. So I just wanted to kind of show you a finished product. So if you're familiar with Figma, you could certainly work on something like this. But also, I wanted to mention that I went to the old website of R&R Lawn Service, and this was the logo I redid, and I did borrow a picture from here. I copied this one, and I also used their navigation, and I borrowed a little bit of their color. I kept a little orange in there, but I got rid of the globe. So that's kind of what I did on here. Now, I didn't work on anything below the hero image area, but certainly I redid the logo. And I just want to show you something here. If I go back to my files, I just want to show you how I got to where I did with the logos. And I was recording videos with different updates and versions, but the last thing I did, I kind of worked on these 4. I narrowed it down to these 4. And that's something you do with a client. You kind of say, hey, what do you think of this? Before you develop out any different variations or anything like that, you want to narrow them down. So I just did it for myself. I kind of like this one where this was going with just R&R Lawn Service spelled out. So you don't have to match up R&R as part of the name. In case that doesn't look like an R&R, in case it doesn't work out. This is probably the simplest one, but I kind of went with this. And again, it's just me. I didn't show it to any clients or anything, but all of them certainly improve on that. But where I took it from here is I did different variations. I kind of used the green circle with white, and I used their kind of brown color. I kind of took their orange and darkened it. That's how I came up with the brown color. And then I did versions with a green background where just with white. And actually, when I did this one, I liked it without the circle. So I started to get rid of the circle. That was the whole idea of using the globe, but I didn't like the circle. I thought it was too much. I liked the way it looks simpler with just the letters and the ampersand in the middle. So then I kind of worked that out a little bit. Now I was working out different versions, black and white, centered, left, and in the end, these were the versions I went with, a centered version and a left version. So when I worked on my web page, I'll go back to that. I copied these to my web page, and I used the left version up here, and then on my mobile version, I used the center version. And I just kept everything white on a green background because I just used that as kind of a header. And I just used a basic green color here. I could have tweaked a special green color, but I didn't do that now. We're getting late in the semester. So anyway, that's kind of where it went. And I kind of started going more simpler and simpler. So simple ampersand, simple R's, took away the circle. So that's where we're at. So again, you want to come up with something that looks like this for a laptop, which I think looks okay. Again, not perfect yet, but we're getting there. And then for mobile, I came up with something that looks like this. And again, you still want to work on creating a nice portfolio piece to show off your logo. That's all you're kind of doing here. We're not doing a whole lot with web design yet, but we're kind of showing it off, just a kind of hero page to show a client to say, hey, this is what your logo could look like on mobile. This is what your logo could look like on a web page. This is what your logo could look elsewhere. So it's nice to show different versions, even if we don't have a working web page yet, but that's kind of where I went with that. So that's what you're going to be doing for P7. It shouldn't take that long. I'll make some videos where I go through some of this so you can see how I did this. I mean, I just created a hamburger menu out of 3 rectangles with rounded corners. The phone I found from the Font Awesome website, and rectangle picture, just cropped a picture, just text with drop shadows. And some of these things I just made a rectangle with a round corner, put a stroke on it, and put text in there and then grouped them. Whenever I could, I would group things. So back on page 1, if I go in here, you can see these things are grouped, but each button here, if I go into the button, there's all different buttons here that are kind of grouped together, and then I group the whole navigation together just to organize things in my layers because there's a lot of things going on here. And I group that. This thing isn't grouped, but then I group the button. So that's kind of how that's set up. So that's what we're going to be working on for P7. If you want to get started with your logo and start building something, I just want to point out I use MacBook Pro 14. And then for the second page, after I got the first one done, so I got this all done. And then I went back to page 2 and I created one out of the iPhone 8 Plus. I made a frame iPhone 8 Plus. And then I just copied stuff from that page and just kind of made it smaller. So I didn't copy the buttons. I just made a hamburger menu. I used a center logo. I imported this in from an SVG file, scalable vector graphic, and then just made this smaller, centered it, and put this button down here and centered it, and put it on 2 lines instead of 1 because it was a little more readable. So that's where we're going with P7. So I'll have more videos, but just to get you started, take a look at this and get your logos finished so that you can incorporate it into a nice web comp for both mobile and for a laptop.